This is TWiT.
Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. The training industry's completion rate is barely 30%. ACI Learning blows its competitors away with an over 80% completion rate. TWiT listeners will receive at least 20% off or as much as 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution plan. The discount is based on the size of your team when you fill out the form. iOS 17 is here. The one thing I'm looking forward to using is the business card feature where you tap phones and it passes your contact information along. What else is something we should? What are you excited about, Jason? You did a good review on 6 Colors.
Live voicemail is interesting.
What's that?
The feature live voicemail basically. Your phone answers the call, but plays your voicemail message and then beeps and then transcribes the response.
So you can see them
your
live
lock screen, so you can see who it is.
Yeah.
And if you want, then you can pick it up.
Oh,
which
turning that on. That's great.
Freaks people out, but it's great for screening calls. That
what do they have to do is record a clatter sound, and you can run over out of breath and say, oh, I just picked up. I heard your voicemail. So just like the old days.
Just like the old days. Yeah, well, the idea, iPhone has this great feature that is hard to turn on, which is unknown callers just are silenced and sent to voicemail. And the problem is, what if it is it's your plumber who you called and they said you'd call them back. They'd call you back and then you didn't put them in your thing and then you missed the call. Like there are lots of scenarios like that. So this lets you turn that feature on, and still if the call is coming in, you get to see who's leaving the message and maybe then pick up and go, oh, sorry, that I'm here now. So that's a nice little feature inside the phone app that I think is pretty clever. There's standby, which is this new thing where if it's being charged either by MagSafe or even just by a cable, and it's in a horizontal orientation and not moving, it enters this standby mode that it basically turns it into a widget display or a clock or whatever, and widgets work in there. And they've got some presets with like photos and the clock. And it's just you could basically buy a stand and turn your iPhone into an ambient data display. And I'm a big fan of ambient data. The idea that I just sort of like it's around me and I can look at it when I want to. And that's a really nice new feature.
Are you using a contact? What's that? What are they calling the feature where you can have your own custom phone?
Contact posters.
Thank you. Contact posters. So
I'm going to set that up right away.
They see not just your name, but hey, here's the picture I decided that you need to see as you're deciding whether to talk to me or not.
Yeah, it's basically the lock screen editor from last year. Turned into contacts. It's the same premise, right? Where you get a layout screen where you can pick a photo and you can pick a color and you can pick a font. And then it uses the same dynamic as has been around for a few years now, where you set a little icon for yourself. And then when you're texting with people, like your icon gets sent to them and represents you if you want and they want. And it's similar in that, if somebody doesn't want to use that photo of you in their personal on their phone, they don't have to, but you basically provide them with like, here is my design of how I would like to represent myself. And it's all via iCloud. And so, you end up with it. There's a little aspect of delight to it too. When your buddy calls you and you're like, hey, and it's a picture of your buddy, like really nice and big, and their face and their name is up there and it's a color they've chosen. And like, it's a nice thing to have. It's not necessary. You have to choose to do it, but I think it's fun that Apple adds features like that.
Yeah.
And I should say, interactive widgets, right, is a huge one that is across all of the different levels of this, which is that, the widgets were pretty, but they didn't do anything, right? They were just for data. And now they can be like, you can't swipe on them, but you can tap on them and things will happen. So there's like a HomeKit one where you can turn lights on and off. Our friend James Thompson has already done his dice rolling app where you can roll dice right from there.
Oh, that's nice.
Timery and other time trackers. You don't even, we're entering an era where for basic app interactions, you don't have to open the app ever if there's a widget on your home screen. So you end up with this interesting case where Apple has sort of like said, it used to be, if you want to use an app, you go in the app. And now it's sort of like, you only need to go in the app in some cases, like when it's something complicated. When it's something simple, you probably never even need to go into the app. You just use the widget and it'll do whatever it is you want. There's a lot of potential there. A lot of third-party apps are going to do great stuff with it.
That's going to be transformative for a lot of people. That's actually one of the things that got me to switch from iPhone to Android way back when, because there are so many times where, like with the Notes app, I don't necessarily want to have to tap on Evernote or whatever and navigate through there and to create a fresh note. I just want to just simply say the Wi-Fi password at my friend's house is this, and when I'm traveling, I even have like a whole page of my home screen set up with just like 1, 2, 3 simple widgets. So it's a status board of where I am in my travels, and also a way to do actionable things. Once again, like when I got 10 seconds to get this down, or 10 seconds to check this or update this thing. I don't need to have to dig through like 80 apps in order to do it. I think that's a really, really, a lot of people are going to find themselves just absolutely digging this to an extreme extent.
Imagine having your to-do list and your time tracker, and you finish a job and you go back out to the home screen. You could literally check off the item off your to-do list and turn off or toggle your time tracker, and you never opened another app. You just went tap, tap, done, move on to the next thing without launching. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much workflows change where people are like not having to open apps. Just tap on that widget and move on to the next thing. And the app is doing the work in the background, but it doesn't have to, do more than that. It doesn't have to be more complicated.
Minimum intrusion is one of the best trends in modern software. That is, let's not grab this person's whole attention.
Right.
Let's just let him just give me part of his brain for exactly 5 seconds so he can do the things he needs to do. And we won't take him out of whatever his mindset is right now.
And just because an app takes up your whole screen and dominates your life, I mean, it doesn't have to, right? It's only been that the model has been the app takes up your whole screen and dominates your life. And with these widgets, Apple is sort of saying, and Apple has a lot invested in people using apps, right? But with the widgets, Apple is saying, no, you don't always have to have it be your whole life. It could just be a little part of a larger thing. It'll be interesting to see how the developers react to it, but I think it's a good thing. I should mention Apple's also completely overhauled the video camera system. So like on the iPad, you can use an external video camera. They're bringing continuity camera to tvOS so that you can do video conferences
that'll be cool.
On your TV.
Nice.
And they've added this whole machine learning layer. So they take in the input from your camera and then they process it and then they output it to the whatever app you're using. And it happens. That's good because it means it'll work in any app. And it also means that they can do, and they're doing like machine learning processing of who the subject is and who the background is, which leads to that whole thing where if you like hold up 2 thumbs, you get fireworks that happen behind you, or 1 thumb and you get a big thumbs up thing that pops up. And that's all across all their platforms.
Look, it just did it.
And without any software at all, because it's just happening
Rock and roll.
In the system.
That's really neat.
So it's all there. And on the Mac,
when you're not watching the video,
week,
Jason's
you can even edit it.
That's so cool.
It's system level. I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's not like only in Apple's apps or whatever. It's like literally when I'm in Zoom right now, Zoom is looking at a video camera that it thinks is the camera.
Right.
But it's not, right? It is a virtual camera of the same name that is taking my camera's input and processing it and then passing it on to Zoom. And Zoom doesn't need to know any of that, right? It doesn't need to know.
Do more, Jason. Do more. Clever. Are there any more?
Well, the short depth of field is that Apple's depth of field is better than everybody else's because it's not as aggressive.
Confetti. Nice. I really like the rock and roll. You got to make the rock and roll gesture.
Yeah, and you can turn all this stuff on and off in Control Center on the iPad and the iPhone too. So you can set portrait mode and studio light, and you can also change how strong they are, which you didn't used to be.
So are you in continuity cam? Oh, it's raining.
I'm actually using my Opal webcam, but it doesn't matter because again, it's into
all in
the system.
Software system, yeah.
And that's just how it works.
Oh, true love. So these are reminiscent of the messages features, but better because you're in it.
Exactly. And it's segmenting based on your position, right? So the idea here is it knows I'm the subject, so it can put things in the foreground and the background.
Yeah, exactly.
The balloons went in front of you and behind you. Oh my god!
And the balloons are translucent too, aren't they?
Yeah, they show a little bit. And likewise, the confetti falls behind me and in front of me.
Wow.
They did a pretty good job with it.
I got to point out, this is all looks simple. It's not.
Yeah, and yes, you can turn it off. You can turn it off if you don't like it. You can because there's always somebody out there who's like, this is so stupid, I hate it. Like, don't worry, you can turn it off, because I think a lot of us over the last few years have been like, there really should be more webcam settings in macOS and iOS, and they're like, Apple will never do it. And it's like, guess what? They did it. They actually, I guess it's not too nerdy after all. You can turn this stuff on and off. You can adjust how much you want that 4K portrait mode thing to be.
Right.
You can do all of that in there now. It's a really nice feature.
Yeah, I was really pleased with how well the camera worked on iPadOS 17. I installed that yesterday, and just you plug it in. I just plugged in basic external USB camera, and suddenly FaceTime didn't even have to be told, don't use the internal camera of the iPad. Use the external instead.
Yeah.
Now the question is, does it deliver that to other apps? So, like, for instance, if you're on to Instagram.
It is I think it changes your default camera when you plug in an external camera, and it uses that camera instead.
Because the Instagram one is interesting, because Instagram won't let you use professional cameras. So being able to it's not so much web cameras, but if I can, because I've tried so far with the iPad, I haven't been able to get my ATEM to work, because it's supposed to show up as a web camera. It shows up as a web camera for many things. It doesn't show up yet for the iPad.
Maybe it doesn't believe you.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that if so digitizers for us, the idea is like, can I give it an SDI or HDMI signal and convert it and have it into one of these like Web Presenter Pros or whatever from Blackmagic? Because again, the Instagram and a couple other ones will not let you do that, because they're trying to keep everybody on the same playing field, and all of us want to break that playing field.
Yeah. I think if it can fool it into thinking that it's a webcam,
right,
and it works with a webcam, then it will work. But those are the tricks. There's a bunch. I was surprised at how much stuff is across all the platforms this year. Right, like there are some iOS and iPadOS specific features, but a lot of them are sort of everywhere: iPhone, iPad, and Mac. I write a lot about the Photos app. They added pets to the machine learning based recognition engine, and it's pretty good. Like, I had 2 black cats and some combination of its ML model, and I think maybe it's using dates as a cue, right? Like that if you see one cat in this run of years and another cat in this run of years, it's probably 2 different cats, which it is. And it did a pretty good job of like recognizing the 2 different cats. And so it recognized all my pets, and then they show up in the People album, which is now called the People and Pets album. So they did some nice stuff there. And then the other one I'll throw out there is password sharing. You can use, if you want to use iCloud passwords and you want to share it with other people, you can. And they didn't do it by saying something like, you can share with your family, but that's it. It's like literally you create a password sharing group, you put people in it. It can be anybody. Yeah. And then you put the passwords in that group, which is actually really nice, because it means that you share this password with, I'm sharing this with Dan and Casey. And then you go to the next password and you're like, now I got to add Dan and Casey again. I can create a group with Dan and Casey in it.
Well, and then they see the passwords,
and then they get, it's like an invitation, and then they get the passwords, and they do see the passwords. You are sharing them, and then you can, that's the circle of trust, right? But by creating arbitrary groups, it could be anybody. Well, and then you say you can assign people to those groups. You can remove people from those groups. It's a really smart. It's a really well done system. There are still reasons to use a third-party password manager, but fewer and fewer of them over time.
Well, the big thing with LastPass that we used a lot for a long time was the idea that I could add groups, and it would add the password into the web page but never show it to you, so that you would be able to give people passwords without actually showing them the passwords. So you could say, I want that person to have access to this, but I don't want them to ever know what the password is. And it would just do that built in. That was a feature, because then you don't necessarily want people to see the passwords either. You can give them access without having to. But all of this is going to go away with passcode anyway, because then you'll be able to basically say these people can get into it. And
Apple's whole system is about disclosure. So if you're trying to hide passwords from people, don't give them the passwords.
Right, don't give them passwords. Exactly.
One thing that really disappointed me was I was really hoping for the next generation of Stage Manager. At least on the iPad, it's still, they made a couple of changes. It's easier to move windows kind of where you want them to go, but the basic problems that I've always had with it, like how is this going to be easier than simply snapping a window left and right, you're not making it terribly easy for me to have multiple work stages. You're not making it terribly obvious how I switch between work stages. It's like I was deliberately trying to see how far I get without reading a documentation on here are the key commands for switching from one stage to another. Here is how you manage apps from one place to another. Hey, why can't I put the window where I want it to go? Well, here's how you put a window where you want it to go. There's a lot of potential there, but it's going to be a struggle for me to stick with it. And I'm determined to stick with it for a little while.
I don't agree, but I'm not a kind of user who does things like try to snap windows side by side. I'm not a snapper. I'm not. I like to put them where I want to put them on my Mac. I think Stage Manager, for me, it completely fixed it. Really? With this version, the fact that you can place windows in arbitrary places. I felt with last year's Stage Manager that I was fighting an invisible enemy who kept wanting to put my windows in places I didn't want to go. I was fighting with the system, and I couldn't survive it for more than like 20 minutes. I just give up. I can't do this. And now, like, it wouldn't let me put two windows where one was centered and one was off to the left. It would be like, oh, you want those side by side. It's like, no, I don't want them side by side. And this new system, you can do that, and it's fine. It doesn't really rearrange your windows at all, other than if it does some sort of like organizational snapping. So if you have one that's sort of toward the top and you have another one at the same height, it will sort of slide it a little bit so that there's level,
still a target,
basically. But that's about it. Yeah. And they solved the hiding problem, which is you could lose a window behind another window. You can't do that with Stage Manager. It actually peeks out the back and says, I'm back here. And then when you click on it, it brings it forward.
Over here. I'm here.
And in terms of switching around in Stage Manager, they added a bunch of shift click now works almost everywhere. Where if you shift click on an app in Spotlight, anywhere in the dock, it will put it in your space, which was a thing that was frustratingly missing last time. Mm-hmm. And in terms of switching between stages, I'm always with a trackpad, so it's the 3-finger swipe back and forth, switches between spaces, and that works for me. So it's gone for me in the way I use Windows. It has gone from being an unusable thing to a thing that I actually can use all day if I want, and it works pretty well. Yeah.
There's just still some confusing stuff. I mean, I'm determined to I've established my iPad Pro as the desk over there is now, that's where the iPad Pro lives, always docked to a keyboard, a mouse, and a screen. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm still confused as to why, like on the iPad screen, I can see the sidebar dock. What do they call it? The dock? They call it the sidebar dock, or whatever they call it for. The place on the side of the screen where you have all your different all your different views, all your different locations. And I'm like, well, why do I not have that on the main screen as well to affect the apps groups that are up there? And it's nice to be able to do all those swipes on the trackpad, but I'm missing maybe it's because I'm just so used to the efficiency of how app and window management works on both Mac and Windows and every other desktop operating system. It's like I'm used to, well, why can't I just hit Command tilde or Command Escape or whatever to switch, because I want the active window to be this now. Like, no, you're making me like drift off the keys and put onto a pointing device in order to actually select this part of it. I openly admit, and I'm trying to address this, that I just didn't get interested in it when it was first rolled out last year. So I had it turned on for a few days to play with it, and then I had to actually start doing actual work on my Mac and on my iPad. Said, okay, this is a distraction. I'll get back to it later, and then I never did. And this is why I've got this set up over there. I'm trying to keep it active so I can learn it, at least from the point of view of someone who is trying to get interested in this. There's a lot of it that just puts me way off, as opposed to other features that the first day I've seen, oh my God, I don't understand fully how this works, but I can absolutely see how this is going to save me time and energy. Like again, snapping, the idea of like, I have limited screen real estate on this iPad, so maybe overlapping windows is going to be more of a hindrance. I like the fact that you don't make me have to sort of carefully adjust how to have one app on one half of the screen, another app on the other half of the screen. I like the fact that you let me just simply have a divider and you can slide it between half and 2/3 or have it come in from the side. I mean, oddly enough, it might sound like a big step backward, but if they added an option for a tiling mode where I can say, look, I want these 4 apps on the screen. I want one half of it to be my editing window. I want one column to be this piece of reference I'm pointing at. And I want a top right corner and the top left corner to be 2 messaging apps, so I can participate in a group chat in 2 different places, that sort of stuff. But maybe I'll get into it.